Thank you. So we can get started. Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting of the Audit Committee to order, and we will begin with the acknowledgement of traditional lands. We acknowledge that we are hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Thank you. And the first order of business today is the election of a committee chair. So I will now accept nominations for the position of the chair of the committee.
Hi, this is Naveen, and I'd like to nominate Robin Pilkey, please.
Thank you, Naveen. Any other nominations? Could I have a motion to close nominations, please? Don't need a seconder for chair. Thank you. Close nominations, though. Thank you, Ms. Choi. Chow. I knew that, sorry. That does have to be seconded, though. Sure. Thank you, Ms. Pilkey. All right. With that, Robin Pilkey has been acclaimed chair of the Audit Committee for the term ending September 2026. Congratulations, Ms. Pilkey, and I will turn it over to you.
Uh-oh. Okay, thank you very much, Associate Director. Only a little bit odd, right, people? Who just is blinking? Did we lose somebody? Okay. The agenda is before us. Could we have a mover to approve the agenda, please? Moved by Ms. Chow. I need a seconder for that. Naveen, can you second it? Sorry, have we lost? Sorry, is the supervisor on the line as well? We've lost them all. Okay, we're going to wait a second. We're going to have a small recess while we get everybody hooked back up. Thank you.
I'm still here. Sorry.
Oh, you're
fiddling with the mute button. Yeah, I'm still here.
All right. So
on camera too, if that helps.
Sorry, could you say who's speaking, please?
It's Rohit Gupta, the supervisor.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta. Okay, so we have a mover by Ms. Chow and a seconded by Mr. Gupta. All those in favor of the agenda as circulated. The people online, you're going to have to talk verbally or wave your hands because it's hard to see.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. That's been carried. All right. The next item is declarations of possible conflicts of interest. I'm going to wait and see if anybody has one. You can bring that up now. Otherwise, we're going to move forward, assuming you're all fine. I am not seeing or hearing anything, so we will go on to the next item. Ms. Joseph Dowers, is there any delegations?
Madam Chair, there are no delegations tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item is the approval of the minutes. The minutes of June 9th were circulated. Could I have a mover for those minutes?
Naveen.
And seconded by Naveen. Does anybody have any changes or anything they'd like to bring up about those minutes or comments? No, I see your head shaking. All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm not hearing any. That's carried. Thank you very much. Who is speaking on the meeting dates?
I will speak to that.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Joseph Dowers.
Good afternoon. We have a few dates proposed for meetings of the Audit Committee for 2026. Under the regulation, the committee is required to meet 4 times per year. The suggested dates are March 21st, 2026, June 8th, September 14th, and December 7th.
All right, so I have a question about this. In the past, we have met in December to approve the statements in December. Are we not doing that?
December 7th.
It says 2026.
Sorry?
It says December 7th, 2026.
The date, the meeting for December this year has already been set. It is on December 8th.
Oh, December 8th? Okay, 2025.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Did everybody catch those dates?
I didn't. Can you repeat?
Certainly, I'm happy to. Then for 2026, the dates would be March 23rd, June 8th, September 14th, and December 7th. We don't need a mover for that, do we? This just for information. Okay. All right. Are there any other comments or questions on these? I see Naveen shaking his head. Mr. Gupta, any comments or questions?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. All right, and Ms. Chow, anything?
No.
Okay, then those look good. Thank you very much. We are moving on to item number 8, report 8.1, the annual audit committee report to the Ministry of Education. Who is speaking to that?
Thank you. Through the chair, I will ask Comptroller Stephanie Harris to speak to this report, please.
Thank you very much, Ms. Harris. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, I would like to introduce item 8.1, which is the annual audit committee report, which can be found on agenda page 7. This report is prepared annually and summarizes all key audit committee activities. The report before you covers the fiscal period for 24-25. So at a high level, the report confirms committee membership, attendance, and meeting dates. It confirms the fact that the audit committee approved key items like the auditors, the appointment of the auditors, reviewed the independence of the auditors, and reviewed and approved the 2023 audited financial statements. The report also includes a summary of the special reports that were provided and reviewed by the committee, including those by the Regional Internal Audit Team, which is RIAT, and the TDSB Internal Audit Team, and also includes a summary of key findings and next steps. Following approval of this report, it will be shared with the Ministry of Education, and that's consistent with the prior year. And if there are any questions about the report, I'm happy to take them now.
Okay, I have a little bit out of practice. I should have gotten a mover for this report first, I think.
Move it.
Thank you. And a seconder?
Naveen.
Thank you very much. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Harris on this report? Naveen?
Hi, just a quick question on the report. As I go through it, is there, in terms of response action plans, who has reviewed those and provided those?
Can you give us the page you're looking at?
I'm looking at page 12.
Okay.
So the action plans are always reviewed by management and provided by management. This is just a summary of the extracts from the report, but there are detailed reports underlying each of these reports, which would specifically outline who had committed to the action plans and who was responsible.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions on this report? Okay, seeing none, then we can take a vote. All those in favor? Online, if you could just indicate your approval.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Opposed, there are none. So that is carried. Thank you very much. I would just remind committee members that this is done every year and basically follows a format provided that we need to do. The next item is the whistleblower. This is the annual report of the whistleblower program. And I need a mover for this. This will be for receipt. We move for receipt still? All right, thank you. Okay, Ms. Chow's going to move everything. Anybody for seconding, please?
Naveen.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. And who is speaking to this?
Thank you. Through the chair, as you indicated, this stems from policy P066, reporting of suspected wrongdoing. There's a procedure 710 that requires an annual report to the board. And so I will ask Senior Manager of Investigations and Accountability, Sandeep Bandhu, to speak to this report, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Audit Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to present the 2024 annual report on our whistleblower program. Through the chair, my objective today is to provide the committee with a high-level overview of the structural elements of the whistleblower program, which are comprised of a policy, a procedure, and resolution processes. I also intend to provide the board with or the committee, I'm sorry, with how the board performed between 2020 and 2024 and how the board performed in 2024 alone. Subject to any questions, I'd like to take the committee to slide 4. So, no. Okay.
All right, will that?
Currently, we have several avenues at the board for how we receive complaints from members of the public and from employees. Currently, the board's framework for policies and procedures provide
Sorry, can you just tell us, are you on agenda page 20? Because the slide presentation doesn't have the same numbers as you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for that. Contextually, although we have several avenues for public and for the public and employees to voice complaints with the board's policies and procedures, the whistleblower program actually provides members of the public and employees with safe and an anonymous means of being able to provide a complaint. It also provides those who report with a strong structural, procedural, and policy framework for making that complaint. In terms of our service delivery model, we currently have a technology infrastructure that allows us to manage the complaints and information that come through. We currently have the ability within that technology to collect all types of complaint data, both through phone or electronically through a website. Currently, the use of the web and email is the predominant or preferred source for making complaints of wrongdoing. And this has been consistent over the last 5 years. In looking at the data, there are subtle differences in the types of complaints that we receive. We're at slide, just for the committee to keep pace, it's at slide 25 or page 25. So at that slide, we currently, we're experiencing the same volume of complaints by electronic means as we have for the last 5 years. Predominantly, we're seeing those complaints come in through email and mail.
Thank you. This would be a lot easier if we could see the actual presentation, but are you looking, sorry, is it on page 24 that you're up to
We're
now?
at page 25 now.
Page 25.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Please continue.
So I'm just going to take you to slide 27. In terms of volume of complaints between 20 to 24, we've seen an exponential increase over the last 5 years of complaints. Currently, from 2020 to now, we've seen an almost 335% increase in the number of complaints. Now, there is a difference between cases and complaints. We receive far more complaints than we do cases, and that means that within one case, there may be multiple complaints that are being made. Taking you now to complaint resolution times on slide agenda page 26. From an overall performance perspective, the number of complaints that we receive are often resolved very quickly. 33% of our complaints are resolved within the first 30 days, with an additional 15% of all cases closed within 90 days. And a little bit, about 50% currently exceed the 90-day requirement or 90-day limitation. In terms of calendar year, we're at currently at slide 29, or page 29, slide 27, I'm sorry. What we can provide there is a little bit of an infographic that shows that in the aggregate, 45% of all of our cases in 2024 were closed within 30 days. Moving along now to the types of cases we receive on page 28 of the agenda. We have a fairly broad cross-section of complaints that we're receiving. Much of it is related to things that are not considered to be suspected wrongdoing, but are considered within other policies or procedures such as harassment and discrimination. So as part of our threshold process, we will conduct a screening of those types of complaints and then ensure that they're provided to the appropriate department. At slide 29, or agenda page 29, I'm sorry, we have our 5-year complaint outcomes. So what we've done is we've broken them down into the different categories that effectively resolve those complaints. For the committee, for informational purposes today, I think the committee would be interested in knowing that 210 complaints of the 1,545 that we assessed were considered partially substantiated, and of the 1,545, 213 cases were substantiated.
It may be helpful at this point if you could explain what a partial substantiation is.
Yeah. In some cases, a complainant or a reporter may make multiple complaints. Not all of the complaints may be substantiated. Maybe a portion of those complaints may be substantiated. So in that case, we would consider a partially substantiated complaint.
Thank you.
Okay, at page 30 of the agenda. So one of the features of the whistleblower program is that reporters can make complaints anonymously. So we thought it would be helpful for the committee to know that the percentage of complaints that are actually that are anonymous and substantiated. And so we found in total there were about 142 cases where there was a partially substantiated or substantiated finding with respect to an anonymous reporter. And for 2024, just to give you a sense of how we look for last year alone, we closed 293 files. 33% were closed due to a lack of information. 57% were closed as unsubstantiated or no cause found, and 14% were considered to be substantiated or partially substantiated. And lastly, the types of complaints that are being substantiated that are anonymous in nature often deal with subjects that are not necessarily part of the whistleblower program. Those are considered unassigned. So that would mean in some cases, the complaint was referred back to a supervisor and substantiated, but not necessarily with any type of classification. Those are my submissions for this presentation. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to do a more detailed overview.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, please go ahead, Ms. Chow.
Thank you. Through the chair to staff.
I think you need to pull your mic down. Thank you. Can you hear me? Don't play with it too much, though.
Thank you. Through the chair to staff. I'm kind of curious about the trend that you were talking about back to page 25. So the increase in 23, 24 is something I would expect because it's kind of post-COVID. What I'm interested in is, can you comment on how that looks like pre-COVID?
So certainly. So I think if we were to look at pre-COVID, our data went back as far as, 2020. And so if we look at between 20 and 22 as the kind of the period for COVID and its impacts, we received about 233 complaints for each one of those years.
So sorry, pre-COVID?
Pre-COVID.
So, okay.
So that would, sorry, be in COVID. With pre-COVID, I think would be about 133. That would be at the start end of COVID.
So what would it look like if you compare 23, 24, fiscal years 23, 24 compared to like pre-COVID, like 18, 19, for example?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part of your question.
I want to know if you extended this graph, for example, to pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, I'm going to assume it started in 2020. So if you look at like, you pull it backwards for 2 more years, for example, how would that look like in terms of trend?
I wouldn't have that data available simply because our integrity count system has been tracking the data since 2020. So anything prior to that would have to be looked into in terms of what happened with the prior under the prior policy.
Understood. It's just, I think this looks a bit misleading because I do expect the years outside of COVID would be higher than during COVID because, people weren't in person. So it'd be interesting to see if you were to extend this backwards pre-COVID, how that would look like, to see whether there's any issues or alarming trends that should be looked at more closely. So thank you for that. The other question I had was, these are wonderful graphs and charts, so thank you very much. What I would like to know is what are the big takeaways, like from your perspective, and whether there's a concern.
So I think the big takeaway is that there needs to be better education amongst the reporters. I think that we really want to leverage the whistleblower program or reporting of suspected wrongdoing for within alignment of the policy. And I think that, the sheer number of harassment complaints that we receive through this system suggests that we can do better education with our members around where that complaint is better directed.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Online, do Mr. Gupta or Mr. Balkrishan have anything that they would like to ask at this point?
Yes, if I may, through the chair.
Absolutely. Please go ahead.
Referring back to agenda item page 29 onwards, I see the leading indicator in a lot of the bars, insufficient information. Can you help me understand examples or what would qualify as insufficient information to put it to rest?
Yes, thank you for that question. And through the chair, many times the complaint will be devoid of any basic information. So oftentimes an anonymous reporter may report information, but fail to report the particulars around the who, what, when, where. And so oftentimes as part of the threshold assessment that we do, we will try to get back to the anonymous reporter for more information. But oftentimes that lack of information doesn't allow us to put it into a category because it's not either clear on its face or it's not particularized in a way that allows us to do that.
Thank you. So as a follow-up question, you do have a framework of putting through every piece of information into whether it is there's enough content in there for you to move forward, correct?
That through the chair, that's exactly correct. But oftentimes the quality of the information depends on the ability of the reporter to be able to articulate the complaint in a way that allows us to collect basic information about it. And oftentimes we will try to work with that anonymous reporter to clarify that information. If they don't get back to us or if they fail to respond, then the complaint would then be closed as unassigned.
Thank you.
Could I pass the chair to you? I have Ms. Chow, because I have a question. Sure. All right, through you to staff. A whistleblower program is only as good as the information and the understanding people of how it works and how they access it. So I know in the past it has been an item on the landing page of the website, for example. Can you tell us how staff and public would know that this program exists and how they would access it?
Through the chair, thank you for that question. The landing page actually contains a tile for just reporting wrongdoing. At this point, that is the main presence that the board has for informing people, and that website will then take them to the information page to help them understand. Otherwise, when they do contact Integrity Counts, the Integrity Counts website, as the reporter goes through each one of the elements of the complaint, it lays everything out for them there.
So through you, when you say people email, or what's the other thing you said? They send an email. Do they send it to Integrity Counts or do they send it to you?
They send it directly to Integrity Counts. So
It never goes to you directly. It's always going to Integrity Counts, whether as opposed to when you say in your report that there's the third party website, phone or email, it's always going to the Integrity Counts.
That's correct.
Okay, that wasn't clear. All right, so just to confirm, there is still on the website, on the landing page, a place that's basically saying reporting wrongdoing. Okay, thank you. I'll take that back. Does anybody else have any questions for this report? Yes, one more question. Please go ahead.
For the chair to staff again. Can we look at,
You need to again pull your,
oh, sorry.
sorry, for the people online as well.
Can you go to page 29, please? I'm just trying to reconcile page 29 to page 30. So page 29 shows all the 5-year complaint outcomes, right? And then page 30 is a subset of page 29, correct? So page 30 is should it be the sum of the partial substantiation and substantiated complaints? So it'll be 210 plus 213. So that should be the total, right? For page 30. But page 30 shows 142. I'm just trying to reconcile the numbers a little bit.
So through the chair, if I can clarify, yours on slide 29, where you're seeing the 142, this only relates to outcomes of substantiated anonymous complaints.
Okay.
Okay. And the slide thereafter, one's between 20 to 24. So it covers that 5-year period. And then the next slide will just cover 24 only.
Okay. Thank you for that. As a follow-up question, can you just kind of speak to why the unassigned numbers are so high on page 30? And is that an issue? Because at any given time, you wouldn't know what the underlying complaint is about.
Through the chair, there is a strong correlation between reporters who make anonymous complaints and the sufficiency of the complaint that they make. So we're finding that with anonymous complaints, those are the most difficult for us to be able to categorize, simply because they're not written in a manner that provides us with those particulars.
Okay. Is there anything you think that can help kind of break that down a little bit more in terms of process, maybe?
Thank you for that. And through the chair, I think we try to be as vigilant as possible about going back to the anonymous reporters. So we don't accept we will go back to them to obtain clarification, and we will email them. So the integrity counts allows us to communicate with an anonymous reporter without knowing their identity. But oftentimes we have to count on them to respond to us, and oftentimes they don't.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. I appreciate it's very difficult. It just jumps up at me that of the 142 cases, like 2/3 of it's basically unassigned. Just from a workflow perspective, it's a bit hard to manage, I would imagine. That's really a comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions on this? All right, so we are voting for receipt. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
I hear Mr. Gupta. Mr. Gupta, are you also saying? Thank
Yes.
you. All right. Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. Okay. The next item we are moving to is the internal audit reports. And we have the internal audit update. Who is speaking to that? Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. And through the chair, I will ask Comptroller Harris to speak to this, please.
All right. Sorry, I think I have to move that we receive it first, right? The internal audit one? Could we have a move in this report, please?
I'll move.
Okay, yay. And a seconder, please.
Naveen.
Perfect, thank you. All right, now please go ahead.
Through the chair, I would like to introduce item 9.1, which is the TDSB quarterly internal update, as well as the 25-26 internal audit plan, which starts on page 33 of your agenda package. The internal audit team provides internal audit services, advice and training, and where appropriate, investigative services. All of the planned activities for 25-26 were completed as planned, except for the vendor change controls review. And this review is underway and will be presented at the December 2025 meeting. As for the 25-26 plan, we are again recommending that 25 school operational audits be completed. The schools would be selected based on size, the period of time since they were last audited, and we will ensure that each superintendent has at least one audit under their portfolio, and where possible, newer principals are targeted for these audits. The school audits, again, will be comprehensive and will focus on a variety of operational, compliance, and financial testing, such as health and safety, asset management, and financial controls, including tracking of cash handling and disbursements from school-generated funds. The audits will also test enrollment and attendance-related controls and ensure that proper process is being followed for prolonged absences. The goal of the audits is to ensure that the controls are operating as intended at individual schools, and that the findings, which represent issues and weaknesses that can be addressed across the board, are shared with other principals and stakeholders so that they can incorporate the findings into their own work. In addition to the school audits, we have planned for internal audit to review cash payment controls with the goal of ensuring that they are appropriately designed to reduce the risk of human error and potential fraud. In addition to these planned engagements, the internal audit team will also provide support for any internal training or information sessions, and they will also support internal investigations upon request. The internal audit team over the next year will also support external agencies, such as the Auditor General, who may have follow-up, and our external auditors, Deloitte LLP. So that's at a very high level, the plan for the upcoming 25-26 internal audit team. And I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Any questions online?
Nope.
All right, I'm going to pass the chair because I have questions.
I'll take the chair.
I'm moving it as if you're going over there. So I do have a few questions if you would give me a little bit of
course.
time. How many people are working in internal audit now?
We have 2 internal auditors, and we're currently recruiting for the internal audit manager.
So Wasif has, he's been seconded to the government. Is he staying there or is he coming back?
He will not be returning.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Thank you. The audit on the evaluation of vendor payment controls, how was this selected as an audit subject?
So it was selected based on the fact that this year we looked at vendor change controls as part of the audit. So it seemed like a natural extension of the vendor payment controls. And also it is an area where the controls haven't been looked at for some time in great detail. And it is an area where we know, in particular, external fraud perpetrators are targeting, organizations. So it's an area we feel is important to look.
Okay. In the past, the internal audit has provided a report showing kind of where special investigations at school level were done and the type of issues that arose. I don't see that in this package. Is that not being shared anymore?
And so as part of the rest of the agenda, we'll be talking about the formal.
Right, I understand
reviews of
that.
the School. We don't have any formal reports in the last year that I'm familiar with that have been formally issued, but certainly we can take a look at any findings or recommendations that have been made, and we're happy to provide them. Does that answer the question?
Sorry, I'm not sure. Maybe someone who's been on the committee for a bit longer, but previously the manager would give us a list of kind of different issues at different schools that they had gone out to investigate. Do you continue to do that?
So we typically, as part of our quarterly report, will update anything we've been asked to do, but I'm happy to come back with at the next meeting and indicate any of the special things that they've been asked to do at particular schools.
That would be appreciated. I think it's helpful because it allows the audit committee also to assess whether there may be a staffing concern. Is there enough staff to do this job, and what's the expectations of it? So it's helpful to know the fuller picture. Right. All right, I can take that back if it's okay.
Of course, over to you.
All right, thank you very much. Could we have we need to vote on this one, so all in favor?
All in favor?
Sure,
Yes.
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 Thank you. Thank you. All right. The next one is the school operations audit report. Could I have a mover for this report?
I'll move it. Ms.
Oh, good. Online.
Naveen.
Thank you. All right. And again, is that for you?
Yes, through to Controller Harris. Thank you.
Uh-oh.
Apologies, I keep wanting to unmute, but I don't need to. And Mandrika is going to support by, we have a PowerPoint which is going to accompany the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
So through you, Chair, I would like to introduce item 9.2, which is the 24-25 school operational audit summary report. And it begins on page 39 of the package. During the 24-25 year, the internal audit team completed 25 school audits as planned. And as I mentioned, as part of the previous audit planning, it looked at similarly operational, financial, and compliance controls. And I'll just pause for a second while we get the presentation on the screen. Oh, I can share, certainly. Okay.
Through the chair, while we're waiting to do this, I just wanted to just give a little indication. When Comptroller Harris was talking about why we do this school audits, one of the things was that we incorporate the findings into our, we provide them to all schools. So not just the 25, but all schools, and then it allows them to incorporate the findings into their practices. So we have been trying to certainly be better at that and be very explicit. And I think that work may be partly the reason that the exceptions have decreased from 23-24 to 24-25. And so that's something that is important to allow all schools to have access to some of the best practices, and then that will continue to improve operations at schools.
Thank you. All right. Are you able to go ahead?
I am, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
So we'll
Please go
just flip to
start.
the next slide. So as I mentioned, high level, the school operational audits look at a variety of areas, including communications and safe school protocols, health and safety, financial controls, in particular with respect to school generated funds. They examine asset management and also look at enrollment compliance. Next slide. So the sample selection was 25 schools. It is a non-statistical sample, so the results of the audit can't be extrapolated to all schools, but certainly it does provide an indication as to areas where we need to focus on additional training and changes to improve compliance rates. So similar to our plan for 25-26, we ensured that each superintendent had at least one of their schools audited. And we stratified the sample across elementary and secondary schools so that the proportion tested would be proportionate to the schools within the system. And where possible, we looked at ensuring that we would audit principals that had not previously been audited and were recently new within their role. Next slide. So overall, across all 25 audits, a total of 3,325 individual controls were tested. The good news is that 90% of those controls which were tested were found to be operating as intended, which means, of course, that there was a 10% exception rate. So as Stacy mentioned previously, the 10% exception rate is a significant improvement from the exception rate of 17%, which we had in 23-24. Next slide. So the report is structured so that each of the high frequency items where their findings were noted includes a summary of what the finding is, what internal audit recommended, as well as a high level management response. It will be under the purview of internal audit to monitor the action plans. And as Stacy mentioned, the report is an important opportunity not only for those schools that were audited directly and those superintendents who received the very detailed reports, but it helps us broadly communicate across the systems areas where additional training, changes and improvement is needed. Next slide. So the next slides, I will go through the high frequency findings that were included in the package. So the first one is asset management. So it was noted at 14 of the schools that there were some discrepancies between what the school asset records were and the IT records. In addition, at 9 schools, it was noted that there hadn't recently been a physical inventory count, and 5 of the schools didn't have a comprehensive IT device inventory. So the recommendation of internal audit was that across the system, there should be a program for recording and tracking devices, both IT devices and musical instruments. And that program should include reconciliation of the records against the SAP system, which is the ERP. It should include physical counts and also clear processes for schools to identify when items were either lost or went missing. Next slide. So the management response is that IT services will soon be releasing a principal's dashboard. This dashboard will contain a list of all the devices that were purchased and allocated to the school recently, and this will provide a jumping off point for all the schools to create the inventory reconciliation that was recommended. However, because the dashboard will be new, schools will need to supplement this information with a list of historical purchases. Next slide. So the next area is start of year forms. So start of year forms are collected across the system for a variety of consents. And these include things such as media, health data from students, as well as contact information from parents and guardians. So it was noted by internal audit that 6 schools had a low percentage of forms submitted online. And there were 4 schools where there was evidence that some forms were either outstanding or improperly filed. Next slide. So the recommendation here by internal audit to improve efficiency is really to ensure where possible that start of year forms are submitted online and that the submission of these forms be regularly monitored to ensure that all are received. So the high level management response is that all schools are provided with a playbook for forms and they are assigned a PM that will assist with planning, sending, and tracking the forms. School completion rates are tracked across the system weekly and the results are communicated to the superintendents. Next slide. So the safe arrivals is the next area. All schools audited did have safe arrival protocols in place. However, it was noted at 5 schools that there was no evidence that unexplained absences were referred to the attendance counselor. So these were absences greater than 11 days. At 4 schools, unexplained absences were not consistently followed up. And at 3 schools, there was no evidence that the principal or designate reviewed the safe arrival reports. Next slide. The recommendation here is one related to training, is that there be clear guidance, training, and regular monitoring so that all the schools are aware of the safe arrival processes. And management concurs with the recommendation and will look at ways to explore the training and monitoring in order to improve compliance. Next slide. So health and safety, I just want to note that there was a significant increase in health and safety compliance. The exception rate noted in this area this year was 3% as compared to 13% in the prior year. And one of the areas that had been flagged as part of our meetings last year was adherence to required fire and lockdown drills. And I just want to confirm that 100% of those fire and lockdown drills were completed at the schools that were audited. Next slide. So we'll now move into the financial areas that were looked at. So the first area is cash handling and reporting. So we do across the system promote schools in providing payment or parents providing payment to the school online. That's our preferred method, but we still have around $10 million per year that is provided to schools and collected in cash. So the audits did look at those cash handling controls. They found evidence at 13 schools that deposit logs were not being used, or if they were being used, that they weren't filled out completely. At 9 schools, there were instances where those deposit logs didn't match the bank statements. And in 5 schools, there was found to be a delay between when cash was received and when it was actually entered into the system. So the recommendation in this area is that the cash handling at schools be reduced through increased use of School Cash Online, which is the online payment portal, and that finance continue to promote training to ensure that staff are clear on cash handling guidelines. Next slide. So the management response here is that the finance team will continue to reinforce training in this area so that all staff are clear on the requirements of what's required when they're handling cash. And we will continue to recommend that schools increase their collection rate online. We do believe that the introduction of point of sale terminals at the school level, which is planned for late fall, early winter, will really help to reduce the requirement for cash handling. And there will be some new payment means on the online system implemented, including options such as Apple Pay, which we're also hoping will increase the adoption of online payment. Next slide. So the next area that was looked at was procurement cards. So procurement cards are assigned to staff and they're used for small dollar purchases. As part of the audit, it was noted that 8 schools lacked evidence for the principal's own purchases being approved by the superintendent. At 6 schools, there was some evidence of missing receipts associated with P-card processes. And at an additional 6 schools, where there were purchases of food and beverage, they didn't complete the required hospitality form. Next slide. So the recommendation here again was that there would be training, additional training to schools so that they would be familiar with eligibility documentation requirements for P-cards. And the management response is that the accounts payable team will continue to reinforce the practices for submission and data retention for P-cards. I just want to highlight, though, that our overall feeling here is that the risk in this area is low, given that the total volume of P-cards across the system, including corporate areas, is annual purchases of less than $5 million. And that's spread out across over 2,300 cardholders. Next slide. So the next financial area that was looked at is school councils, where school councils actually have their own bank accounts and are collecting cash from parents and payments for school council activities. In 7 schools, we noted that there was evidence that deposit logs and vouchers were not consistently used. 5 school councils did have evidence of missing bank reconciliations. And in an additional 5 schools, it was noted that the records were not always consistently maintained at the school. Next slide. So again, here the recommendation was training and making sure that there was a clear understanding of the requirements by school council. So the finance team will continue to reinforce the requirements, not only with school principals, but also with school treasurers, as well as key committees such as the PAC committee. And as a mitigation here, I just want to point out that in addition to the regular ongoing submission of financial data to schools, school councils are also required to provide semi-annual reporting. That includes bank reconciliations and statements of their financial activities. And as of the last financial reports that were collected, all were received across the system with the exception of 1. So there is a little bit of mitigation through those comprehensive semi-annual reports. Next slide. The next area is school-generated funds protocols. So school-generated funds previously at many schools are referred to as non-board. So these are collections from parents for things like school trips or pizza lunches. It was noted at 11 schools that there was evidence of disbursements from school-generated bank accounts that were ineligible. So these would include things that should have potentially went through the board budget, such as instructional supplies. At 7 schools, disbursement vouchers, which are signed off by the person requesting the disbursement, were either not filled out or were missing. And at 6 schools, they were incomplete. And then 5 schools, there was evidence of missing receipts. Next slide. So again, the recommendation here is that there needs to be a continual reinforcement of the data retention and the documentations that required, as well as reminding those who are making disbursements from school-generated funds that they need to use board-approved vendors. So again, management confirms this recommendation. They will continue to reinforce this training. And I think really importantly, where our financial support officers see staff that are struggling to understand the requirements or where extra help is needed, they will be recommending those individuals to the principals for additional support. Next slide. And the final area that was examined by the internal audits was school enrollment. So this is another area where there was a significant improvement from the prior year. The exception rate dropped significantly from 33% to 10%. However, it was still noted that 9 schools had evidence that prolonged absences were not always referred to the attendance counselor. And 6 schools, there was some evidence where improper attendance codes were used. And in particular, an example of that would be the attendance codes that is specifically used for absences greater than 15 days. Next slide. So again, the recommendation is clear guidance, regular monitoring, and targeted training. And the planning department will continue to provide guidance and training to schools. They do remind them about the processes to deal with prolonged absences on a monthly basis. Next slide. So in conclusion, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, it is a non-statistical sample. So the results from these 25 audits cannot be extrapolated across the system, but they certainly do provide us with areas that we need to focus on, in particular where training and communication of processes needs to be better communicated. And we hope that, we have already shared these results with the individual schools and the superintendents who were audited. But following this meeting, we will be sharing more broadly all of the results across the broader system so that all of our school principals and central staff are aware of the findings. So I know that was a quick overview, but I am happy to take any questions that you may have about the report.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Any questions? Please go ahead.
Thank you through the chair to staff. First of all, I want to say kudos to the internal audit team for doing such, great work. Reviewing over 3,000 controls across 25 schools is not a small feat. So appreciate all that work. I'm glad to hear that the exception rate has decreased significantly as well, from 17 to 10%. There's obviously still a lot of work to be done, especially around asset management and financial controls. My question is going to be around the P card specifically. I think you mentioned, you made a comment that, from a risk perspective, it's quite low. It's like $75 million in terms of total spend across 2,500 cards or so. But it's still high, right, from an exception rate perspective. It decreased from 18 to 13%, but 13% is still quite high. I know, from again, financial materiality perspective, it's low, but I'm more concerned about the reputational risk, especially considering the current environment. So I would encourage, staff to kind of think about ways to get that number down. I'm not sure what the, in addition to training, if it's not working, what's the next step kind of thing? Can we cut off, people's P cards, for example? Is that a step that we can take? Just so that people are aware there are implications to continue, not following proper process or protocols. Because I've been monitoring this since I've been an audit committee member, and every year it seems like we'll provide more training. But at some point, there might be some more extreme measures that need to be taken.
Agreed. I think one of the key challenges we pointed out in the report is that principals didn't have their report signed off by their superintendent. So that did account for a large number of the exceptions. I think that's an area where we can quickly target that communication, that principals, you do need to forward your P card statement on. It does need to be signed off. So I think that's one where it sort of came up this year, I would say, as more of a finding. And I think it's an area where we can probably have some quick wins. I would also confirm, though, that if there's any type of improper activity noted on a card, that's something that the accounts payable team does take action on. So anything that they do notice, any unusual activity or whatnot, that would be immediately dealt with. I think the challenge here is just the communication across a large group of card holders, right? And just how can we continue to kind of reinforce that message and that we need adherence, because there's so much reliance placed on local management of these cards.
Absolutely. I can appreciate how difficult of a job it is. Again, like I know the AP person is monitoring, but I'm not sure to what extent will that person know, for example, whether it's a personal expense versus a business expense. So that's hard to say without receipts, right? Proper receipts.
It is, yeah.
I'm assuming the AP person is just monitoring type of vendors to see.
Correct.
But say the cardholder uses the card to purchase from Amazon, which is very, could be personal, could be business. It's hard to differentiate without.
I agree. I think that is difficult. I think the AP does have some areas though where they can monitor. So as an example, I will provide, this year there were controls around purchases from US vendors that were implemented. So some of it is technology controls. So we were able to work with the card provider and say, okay, we'd like you to stop approving any transactions that originate from US vendors, right? So it's a little bit of blunt, and yes, there were some legitimate expenses that got caught up with that, but that's the kind of tools that AP can use to kind of restrict certain vendors where they see problems using the cardholder's technology.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Great. Mr. Balakrishnan, do you have any questions?
Good, thank you.
All right. Mr. Gupta?
Yeah, I have one question.
Sure.
So I guess through you, the chair. In the beginning of the report, it references a 90% sort of adherence rate. and that it had improved last year from a 17% sort of exception to 10%. Does the TDSB have a target for these audits? What is considered your acceptable level of exception?
I trust that to staff.
Through you, Chair, I would suggest that we're trying to get in a perfect world to zero. I think when we get something, in some instances, we're a lot more sensitive to it if there's more risk to the organization. In areas where there's less risk, I think getting below 5% would be a good target, but we try to assess and keep moving the target as close to zero as possible, because we realize with any variances, that's risk to the organization's resources as well as its reputation.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm going to pass the chair. Through you to staff. So I would say last year I was very concerned about the safe arrival protocols and the fire drills. So it's good to see that at least this year, this group of schools had done all their fire drills, or at least recorded them all. So I think that when you look at risk to the organization, that is a very high risk if these things aren't being done. The safe arrival protocols, obviously, there's been quite a bit of improvement. I think that can continue to improve. I hope that that receives a lot of emphasis as a safety issue. And I would be interested in the future, perhaps going back a few more years past just the last two to see kind of what the trend is. Because if the trend is up and down, it means that the information or the training isn't being picked up, right? So I think those two areas are incredibly important from a risk perspective. The other part that interests me about the equipment, are schools required to do like an annual inventory count of their equipment? I'm going back to being an actual auditor.
So I think that's part of the recommendation, is that we need to formally be requiring schools providing some sort of expectation as to what that is. I don't think there's a clear sense by schools of how often and when they should be doing those inventories.
And I'm assuming that these are not material to the regular the audited financial statements. So
You are correct.
not taken up in that area. Okay. And when you talk about the dashboard, the IT dashboard, is that schools will have that going forward and they have to supplement with what they have on hand? Is that kind of, I'm looking at you, Mr. Singh.
Through you, Chair, yes, that's the goal, to just bring the data in now from multiple environments on the back end and just keep feeding that data on a weekly and monthly basis. Then schools can help us also to maintain it. I think one of the other pieces we see a gap is also when the asset gets sunsetted, that needs to be tracked, even if it's going to e-cycling, it needs to be tracked that it is going to e-cycling.
Right.
So we know the asset has been sunsetted. I think
Right.
that's another gap we will be closing with these things.
Okay, thank you. Another question. When you talk about the point of sale, does this mean that schools will be able to do debit now that they can't do presently? Or like, does School Cash Online doesn't do debit, does it?
So School Cash Online, my understanding is does do a debit currently, but it's very low adoption. These point of sale terminals will be like what you would have at a Tim Hortons or any type of retail environment. So a wireless machine that could be used in the office to collect payments directly, or if there was an area where funds were being collected, so annual dues or whatnot, that wireless machine could be set up, and students, particularly in high schools, we see it being an area where they could come in and make payments directly.
Okay.
And similarly, thank you, Craig, has reminded me about fun fairs. So these, those are areas, those type of community events where there's lots of ticket sales or cash received. The POS machines would be another area where they could be used on a targeted basis to help avoid cash collections for those events.
Okay. And I assume that those kind of things then would reduce the chances that the school council decides they're going to get a Square machine or something. And
100%.
okay. And when you talked about school councils, you were not talking about the home and schools or the schools that have not for, who have charitable numbers. Is that right?
You're correct. So there was actually one school that was picked up as part of this audit that has home and school, but that is completely, because it's not legally consolidated as part of TDSB, that home and school was set aside and was not part of the audit, internal audit scope.
And it would be the same for schools that have gone out to get their own CRA number?
Correct.
Thank you. And could you just elaborate a little bit more about how the information from these audits is shared across the system?
So at a high level, there's very detailed reports with individual findings for each of the steps. Those have already been shared with individual school principals, and they validated for each of the areas that they concur, which is how they make their way to this report. The final reports for each school was shared with the superintendent for that school, so they have that very detailed report. We have already shared the reports, the findings internally with key areas. So for example, IT has been made aware of the IT areas. So just individual areas have all been made aware of the items relating to their area. It is our goal next to share the findings with all principals and central staff so that there's like broad understanding of the key findings from these reports. So we can create awareness about areas where there were issues and sort of make high level recommendations about what people need to watch for. And in particular, I think that has to do with principals, and as well as really focusing in on our training sessions, really focusing in on these areas and reinforcing the findings that we had.
All right. So the testing that these responses or these plans have worked would be that you go out to the next group of schools and you see less of it. That would be,
Exactly. So
that's the only way to see if it was effective.
yes,
Okay. And you have 25 schools scheduled for this year already?
we do. Yes.
And once this 25 is done, how many will have been done in total
Since
we started this program?
that's a question I can't answer, but I'm happy to review and follow up as to,
I can't remember what year we started this.
I'm not sure, it predates me, but it's something we can follow up on.
Right. Okay.
We'll bring that information to the December meeting.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, I'll take the chair. Oh, sorry. Do you have a question? Or you'd like to comment?
I would like to comment through you, Chair. Just want to thank, first of all, the internal audit team for the intensive work that they've been doing. Certainly not just this past year with the 25 schools, but as you pointed out, this program has been in place for some time to build on what our controller has said. In addition to the steps outlined, the committee can be sure that as an executive team, we're having careful conversations about our operational protocols writ large. And so this is another source of data that is going to, or that is helping us zero in on the areas that are most critical, and really, frankly, all areas. I believe that it's important that there be broad awareness, and that's been pointed out. It's important that there is appropriate training, and I think we can have some conversations about the type of training that is more likely than not to have the kind of effect that we want it to have. One audit member pointed out the importance of monitoring. And I think that that's an area where we can put some additional focus. And along with the awareness and all those pieces, I think that it's really critical to have very clear expectations across the system as to what the standard that's expected and why. As you pointed out, Chair, there are real consequences if fire drills aren't done. We would hate to think that we would have a fire in a school, but we have had that. And we want to be absolutely certain that if that should occur, every staff member, every student knows what to do and can follow that routinely. And it's drills that help us to do that. It's drills that will help us to identify the areas where we can sharpen up local within the school and across the system. So there's real import to these reports and to learning from these reports. And so I just want to assure the table that this is something that we're leaning into and paying very close attention to. And around fire drills, significant effort was put into those this year. And in addition to the improved results coming through internal audit, as you've pointed out, we have on the ground real-time data as to the improvements made through this year's efforts in the number of schools that have completed their drills and completed the documentation of the drills. And so I think this points out that when we pay attention to the things that are important and we put real focus to it and support and monitor and address areas of concern, that we can see good results. And so I appreciate the things that have been surfaced through the conversation and that are being surfaced through this report. And finally, I just want to point out that while we have looked at the report for these 25 schools, there are themes that we can identify through multiple years reports. And we're also looking at that to inform where we place our attention and the work that we do. So I appreciate the conversation and be sure that we're taking away fresh insights to add to the conversations that are happening and to the planning that's underway for what it is that we'll focus on, and look forward to improved results across these areas, because the work matters and have real impact, not only reputationally, but can save lives. So thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Director. Appreciate those comments. All right, I think we are probably we are ready to vote on this report if there are no further questions. All those in favor? Online?
Yes.
Great, that is carried. Thank you so much. All right, we are going now to the RIAT, the Regional Internal Audit, and I hope Ms. Hatt has been sitting online listening devotedly.
Thank you. Through the chair, my team's update, item 9.3, is a one-pager on page 55 of the agenda package. It provides an update on the progress of our planned engagements and other items. Of note, we have issued one report since the last meeting that has been shared. We do also have a backlog of 3 engagements from previous years and 2 additional engagements planned for the upcoming year. As our team has now, we're starting to receive more funding from the ministry. My focus this year is to clear this historical backlog. I am looking to accomplish this by filling a vacancy that we have currently, potentially expanding our FTE, which will be determined through consultation with management from the member boards of our region, and using some of our allocation to outsource engagements and co-source staff from firms as necessary to fill in the gaps. We are hoping to work with business management to get these started sooner rather than later. Just as soon as the initial school startup phase is complete, we will be looking to jump into as many as we can. Regarding our follow-up activities, this is similar wording to what was presented at the June meeting. However, I have since then assigned responsibility for follow-up at a recent team meeting. And my expectation is that my team will reach out for updates at some point this month, with hopefully an end goal of presenting status updates on previously completed audits at the December meeting. Finally, due to the extra steps that we are currently taking to implement the new internal audit standards, we will be presenting our annual report to the audit committee at the December meeting, because we have a number of things that we're looking to implement, like updating and refreshing our charter, rolling out a strategic plan, as well as developing some longer-term action plans. So thank you for the opportunity to present my update, and I'd be happy to take any questions or comments from committee members. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hatt. I have made a mistake and we should have had a mover for that report first before you started chatting. So I'm going to look at Ms. Chow. You're moving that?
Yes.
Okay, and anyone who'd like to second it online?
Naveen.
Perfect. All right. Okay, does anybody have any questions on the audit plan for the RIAT? I see no hands. Can I transfer this to you? Because I have one. All right. I don't know why I'm pushing the microphone. Okay, so my question through the chair is, does it make any sense to be talking about engagements for 25, 26 when we're still doing the ones from 24 and 23?
No, absolutely. Through the chair, our priority will be to complete the cleanup engagements first. So those will be done. There are at least 2 of those that will be outsourced. So we have some flexibilities when we can get those done, but we will definitely try and clean up the older ones first before moving into the new ones. Obviously, you know, having 5 going at the same time would be a bit of an overkill, but we will try and get to those 3 older ones as soon as possible.
All right, so I just through you, I need some clarification. Are you saying that if we haven't done the student accommodation, business continuity, and cybersecurity, if you wouldn't start the other 2 new ones, records management and purchasing, until those 3 are done?
That's correct. I mean, ideally, we would like to get the older ones done first so that we can address risks that were previously identified.
All right, and you said some of them might be outsourced. Which ones would be outsourced?
That's correct. So the cybersecurity would be outsourced due to the skill set on my team. We don't have any cybersecurity experts. As well, we would be looking for the business continuity planning. We have used outside third party to conduct this engagement at a couple of boards at this point. It seems like that I think would be a good fit for outsourcing. And then what we would see, just depending on the capacity of our team and how fast that we can staff up, as to what we would do internally versus outsourcing.
So who would you outsource that to?
So we would pick a professional services firm. So we typically use firms that are on the Province of Ontario's vendor of record program. We send out quotes typically to at least 3 of the firms, and we go based on the quote as well as ensuring that they're able to accommodate us.
Okay, so let me just summarize this. It seems like the RIAT will do the student accommodation one. The business continuity planning is being outsourced to a vendor to be determined. Cybersecurity would be outsourced to a vendor to be determined. The cost of those would be paid by the RIAT?
That is absolutely correct, yes.
Okay, and then the RIAT would be working on the records management and purchasing efficiency.
That's correct, yes.
But there's no dates for those. Plus, the RIAT wants to go back and check other ones that the follow-up from previous reports.
That's correct. So that will be part of a separate process. So basically that will be just we've created a register of findings and recommendations. So that would literally be at this point a matter of sending that register over, getting an update, yes or no, that something's been implemented. If not, is it because it's not going to be implemented for budget or other reasons? If it is still in progress, is there a modified timeline for that? And then after we go through that process, we would isolate engagements to be followed up on. I know that we had previously, it had been communicated to us that, you know, we should stick to the ones that are more recent within the past 10 years. So
Yes.
as we would move forward, we would do follow-up engagements on those. But the first step would be the update.
All right. So you're not going back, like you said previously, that you're going to ask for 10 years and all that stuff, which I think I have expressed, I thought was a complete waste of your time. And what the decision to do records management and purchasing efficiency was based on what?
That was based on a risk assessment that was completed last year. So we had spoken with management, had some interviews and surveys. As well, we had a follow-up discussion as to areas where we would be able to provide value to the process. And those engagements were what came out of that, in addition to the business continuity and cybersecurity. So that was done last November, December, I believe.
That process in the past, you have polled trustees as well. Did you do that at that point as well?
Not as part of the last one. I can't remember the rationale for changing our process, but we did not poll trustees at that time.
Okay, thank you. I would just again reiterate that I think that your list of audits is too ambitious and unrealistic. And given that you are still trying to staff up, I think you would be better off to perhaps streamline that a little bit, maybe only plan to do get the older ones done, maybe one of the current year, but I do feel it's unrealistic given my experience in this in the past. And it's not to dump on you or your people, it's just the amount of work required and the amount of work that's required from our own staff to support. I just don't think that it's at all realistic. So I'll leave my comments there.
Okay, I appreciate your feedback on that. And, we will try to get as much as possible done this year, focusing on those older engagements. And hopefully we will go from there and make some progress on the current ones.
I hope so as well. I'm going to take back the chair. Thank you. All right. We do need to vote on the RIAT's report. All those does anybody else have questions?
I have.
Yes, please go ahead.
It's just a question. I'm not sure who to direct to, but
You need to speak into the mic though. I'm sorry.
I have a quick question. I noticed the risk register is quite dated. It's June 2022. And I have just a question about what's the process in terms of updating it and getting the committee an updated risk register?
Ms. Hatt, did you get that question?
Yes, thank you. I will defer to management. This wasn't something that the RIAT was directly involved in developing, but it was something that we had piggybacked on and developed in selecting our engagements a couple of years back.
Do you want to speak to that, Ms. Zucker? Thank you.
Thank you. And through the chair, I think it will be important for us to update it, especially given everything the time that it's been since we have done it and the progress that we have made in addressing certain risks. So that is something we are looking at along with an entire enterprise risk management process as well. Filling the position of the manager of internal audit would be really important in order for us to be able to undertake that work. So that is something that we will look at. We've had a gap this year with the manager being seconded and then leaving for that position permanently. But that's something that staff is going to prioritize.
Thank you for that. And I would also encourage, I guess, staff to incorporate the updating of the risk register as something that's a standard item on the committee's agenda, whether it's every 2 years, every 3 years, whatever it is. So it's just a continuous process.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor?
Yes.
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 And then opposed? Nobody? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, so we are moving on to our next report, which is the incident reporting review. So I am, could I have a mover for that report for the RIAT?
I will move it.
Oh, good. Seconded.
Naveen.
Oh, good. All right. I'm going to turn it over to you again, Ms. Hatt. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair, the body of the incident reporting review starts on page 61 of the agenda package. So this engagement was one that had originally been selected by TDSB Internal Audit, but we brought it into our plan a couple of years ago because of staffing constraints on their team at the time. So we undertook an advisory engagement with the overall objective of determining whether staff are reporting incidents through TDSB's incident reporting tool. So our specific objectives included looking at the design of the tool to confirm that it was user-friendly, as well as assessing whether incidents are captured consistently and accurately. We also looked at whether the information captured in the system is effectively communicated and used. So this was a limited scope review focusing on the incident reporting tool. So for those not familiar with it, we have included the incident types that are pre-populated within the tool in Appendix B that starts on page 72. So our engagement approach involved walking through the incident reporting tool with staff to see how it currently operates. We also reviewed some documents to understand how the existence of the tool and how to use it are communicated to schools, as well whether the data is within the tool is reviewed for accuracy, and how information is compiled, used, and reported overall. Finally, we sent a survey to schools to gather their perspective on the incident reporting tool and learn more about how they use it. So when we started this engagement a couple of years ago, we originally sent the survey to a small sample of schools. Unfortunately, we did not receive a great response rate to that original survey. So although we did some other procedures to satisfy our objectives, ultimately management was still interested in the value of the in getting that feedback and the value of it that a survey would provide. So as a result, we redesigned and reissued the survey in consultation with management, as it was an advisory engagement, and it was issued to all elementary and secondary schools. The response rate was significantly better the second time around, and I would like to thank all the schools that did take the time to respond to it. So although the engagement did take longer to complete than originally planned, the survey provided us with more valuable and insightful information. The findings section touches on some of the survey results, but the full set of results can be found in Appendix A, starting on page 68. We have provided conclusions for our objectives on page 63. First of all, we noted that we did not find any issues with the ease of use of the tool. However, as noted in finding number 1 on page 64, the purpose of the incident reporting tool has not been defined, documented, and communicated. And this was raised through the survey and confirmed through additional discussions. Now, where users are not clear on the purpose of reporting incidents and what the data is used for, the act of inputting and reporting the incidents might not be prioritized, which could lead to underreporting. Now, as determining the objective should be a starting point, the item was raised as high priority in the context of the area reviewed, and Appendix C on page 73 provides our priority rating definitions. We recommended that the purpose and the objective of the incident reporting system be determined and documented. And going forward, the information collected should be aligned with the objective to maximize value. Management agreed with the recommendation and will work to address it. Now, for the second engagement objective related to the consistent and accurate capture of incident data, we noted a couple of areas for improvement. So finding number 2 relates to training. Now, while we saw that training materials were available for users, many of the survey respondents were not aware of these, and training was not mandatory, which could lead to incorrect use of the system if the users aren't fully aware of how to use it. In addition, some of the schools were only reporting significant incidents. Some also reported moderate incidents, while others went further than that, leading to inconsistent use. So depending on the expectations of the system, some schools may be over-reporting and some may be under-reporting. So we recommended that once the purpose and objective of the tool are defined, these should be communicated to schools, while also emphasizing the types and levels of incidents to be reported, as well as where to find guidance on using the system. Making training mandatory should also be considered, but we realize that this isn't always possible. Management agreed with the recommendation and does plan to revisit and refresh the training for the incident reporting tool. In addition, management has flagged a potential change in the incident reporting platform. And overall, this finding was rated as a medium priority. Finding number 3, also rated as a medium priority, relates to a review that we did on the number of incidents reported by school. So specifically, we did obtain a report showing schools that reported more than 10 incidents and those that reported 10 incidents or fewer. So although each school will vary in the number and types of incidents, reporting 10 or fewer incidents could be seen as a potential flag for underreporting. However, these reports are not being reviewed and followed up on and are not being shared with schools. So we recommended that data be reported back to the schools so that they know that the data is being looked at and considered. Management agreed and noted that school dashboards would be created and shared regularly, and that follow-up would occur with schools that might be or are raising flags for potential underreporting. Further, the action plan notes that incident summaries and trends would be reported to senior leadership in the audit committee, which also relates to the last finding. So the last engagement objective related to the effective use of information collected in the incident reporting system. We noted that this was an area for improvement. There is no high-level reporting of data to identify issues and trends, which could benefit from action at a higher level. This is outlined in finding number 4, which is also rated medium. We recommended that a regular review take place with the results reported to a party that is able to take action on the high-level results. In addition, as this information relates to risks and risk management, we also recommended reporting to an oversight structure such as the audit committee. The action plan for finding number 3 captured the recommendation for this finding as well. This concludes my presentation of the report. I would like to thank management for working with us to complete the review, especially in coordinating the survey, which was quite an undertaking. And again, I would like to express my appreciation to the schools who did take the time to respond to that survey. I'm happy to take any questions or comments from the committee members. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Joseph Towers, I had someone move this, right? Yes. Okay, good. Anybody have any questions?
I don't have any.
All right, online, does anybody have any questions?
Don't have any questions.
All right. Okay, I have no questions either, so I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
In favor.
Thank you. That is carried. Thank you very much, Ms. Hatt. We'll see you, I guess, in December. All right. We are moving now, just for information only. I don't think we vote on this one. Just the update of how the work tracker, as it shows how we're meeting the regulation 361/10. That is for information. Does anybody have any questions? I'm assuming no. Okay, that's great. That means that we would then move into private. I would need someone to move us into private. And then I think the people need to leave, but Joey and Naveen, thank you. All those in favor? I don't know if we have to vote for that. I can't remember.
Yes.
Okay. All right, we're all in favor? Excellent. Thank you. Okay, we're just going to clear the room. It's just for the minutes.